Welcome everybody, I am Shigana, also known as Frankie Traino, founder of Shindo Fushin Ryu Dojo. We are in the era where it is popular to make videos and produce various slop and claim that specific things never existed. This is where we're at. And regarding this ninja debunking documentary, as a practitioner myself, I have a lot of things to correct regarding it. My sensei was Soke Tsukikage Hiromusashi, Hawaboro Zuki Ryu Shindo, who is dead, and I have also had training involving the teachings of Soke Toshitsugu Takamatsu Sensei, particularly Koto Ryu, Gyoko Ryu, Kumogakure Ryu, Kukishinden Ryu, and Amatsu Tatara Ryu. I have also studied Japanese swordsmanship, Iai Jutsu, Hokushin Shino Ryu with Maeda Sensei, and Muso Jikinen Eishin Ryu with Sekiguchi Sensei. I am the author of the Obi-Ichi series. Let us begin.
Starting with the most iconic ninja tool ever made, the shuriken. The most iconic ninja weapon on Earth, Ninja Gaiden, and of course the most iconic ninja representation of all time, Naruto.
Shadow Clone Jutsu!
These star-shaped throwing tools are the weapon of choice for long-range assassinations. And in some media, you'll see ninja throwing as many as 4 to 5 at one time. Pretty freaking cool. To learn about the true origins of ninja history, I sat down with Dr. Robert Tuck.
In the last 2 years, 2023, 2024, two of their scholars have come straight out and said there is no historical evidence that shinobi used shuriken.
Oh, poppycock. What an ignorant thing to say. Here's the so-called experts who have nothing to do with any of the Ryu or any of the clans. Don't you know? Mate, people have known for a very long time that the shinobi used shuriken. Various types of shuriken, which can be found on various makimono scrolls. Why are you not researching Toronomaki? They're out there. Look at all of them. For me, as a practitioner and a historian, this has been a lifetime of work and I'm saving you a lot of trouble. Okay? And they were not just for ninja. Shinobu or ninjutsu, the art of stealth, was actually quite common for a lot of people in the Edo period. It was popular. It was the end thing. Not just the ball shuriken, the star shuriken. Yes, the star-shaped shuriken definitely existed, okay? Former ninja in particular were famous for using the manji swastika shuriken. Sometimes as a historian and a practitioner, and having the opportunity to meet various people to see things that are not out there for the mainstream to see, you'll be surprised what you find. There are people that have documents who have no intention of showing anybody.
Up here is referring to 2 scholars from Mie University's International Ninja Research Center. Yeah, that exists. So if these weapons have no historical basis, where did the association even come from? But it turns out these weapons trace their origins to a 1957 post-war Japanese. True historical predecessor to these were the steel darts and needles, which trace their origins back to the 1600s, but they were never star-shaped and, truthfully, never ninja associated.
The idea that guys in black went around in medieval Japan throwing star-shaped bits of metal at people, that comes from a post-war Japanese TV show.
Stumbled upon a video where a YouTuber visited an authentic Iga-born ninja training academy, and in it he learned how to throw ninja stars, silent walk, and most funny of all was how they started the training session with ceremonial bowing and etiquette, which is a complete absurd juxtaposition when you think about how they're being polite to learn assassination techniques.
Okay. This one has got to be the worst I've seen so far. Every single Japanese person does this, regardless of profession, That is the Japanese way. Royalty or non-royalty, that's what you do. That's the way it is. And it still is that way today. For all walks of life. This is just Japanese culture. That's what you do. And ninja are samurai.
The ninjato, as some weebs might call it. This is distinct from the katana wielded by the samurai because it has a straight blade, usually comes with a square hilt, which I've been told is used to help scaling walls. But like, if you look at it, I mean, I don't know, can't you just jump? It's not really giving you that much range.
It is true that the shinobi did not have a particular sword called a ninjato that they used in place of the katana, but they did modify their existing wakizashi and katanas. They just used the ordinary katana that a samurai used, because they were samurai, you got to remember that, and they used the wakizashi, and they absolutely did step on the guard, the tsuba of the sword, to lift themselves up. There are times where you cannot jump and you have to use the sword as leverage. Okay? That is recorded and we have those documents.
We'll come back to that later. A lot of this was already covered in one of Scola Gladiatora's YouTube videos. He's an antique arms dealer, and I learned a lot about the ninja sword from his video, so I'll link it down below. But it turns out these ninjato have zero historical evidence of being a ninja-specific sword. In fact, there's zero historical evidence of these straight-bladed designs being used at all, because it's actually a 20th century invention.
Fair enough. The ninjato as we know it from the movies and video games, that is a 20th century invention, but there was an actual katana, a straight blade, called a chokuto, very similar to that, but they weren't called a ninjato. It was just an old katana before they had mastered the curve. And I wish I had the picture. I can't find it anywhere. It exists out there in a woodblock print somewhere. I have a very good memory, and this is what I remember it looking like. One thing I know I have and I trust is my memory. I specifically remember the tsuba guard looking diamond shaped. So it's square but it's on an angle like that. But they did have very similar looking blades with a square tsuba and a straight blade.
The kunai. So the kunai is what everyone thinks of when they're thinking of the ninja throwing knife or like a combat dagger.
It looks much more like a spatula, right? It's kind of like a scraper, apparently, that you're supposed to use to break through plaster walls, and there's no suggestion in these sources that you're supposed to use it as a weapon.
Why wouldn't the shinobi use the kunai as a weapon? A ninja's weapon is everything that exists. What is a tool is also a weapon.
Also look at smoke bombs commonly found in Naruto. So actually, these are kind of real. They appear in the Bansenshukai, a historical ninja manual. So, I mean, that's a win for all us weebs.
Yes, correct. Let's keep on moving on.
Caltrops, they're those like little spike thingies you throw on the ground to mess up someone's feet. Well, okay, turns out those are actually real, and they even showed up in some of those ninja manuals. But then there's the Mizugumo, which is like the water spider. You know, it's like, if you've ever seen those...
Yes, that's correct. But what people don't realize about these water spiders is you don't stand on them, so you don't have one on each foot. You sit inside one of them. They're big enough for you to put your legs through, and then you paddle with a oar, particularly a bamboo oar, as it was shown. So there was a misunderstanding until they found scrolls later on. At the time when the movies came out, they had not yet discovered the rest of the information. They thought there was two of them that went on each foot, but no, that's incorrect. That's why no one has ever been able to achieve success by having two of them on each feet. It's just one, large enough to sit in and paddle.
Contrary to what Naruto might have you believe, ninja are supposed to wear all black because they live in the shadows and they're children of the night. And I mean, that's what I thought growing up, but it turns out that's false too. In fact, Naruto might have had it much closer to the authentic ninja than what I had imagined.
Ninja were the typical black-clouded, dark character. That's what comes to mind when we think of ninja, my generation. okay? Millennials and Gen X. Naruto is a very new thing that came about when I was in my 20s. You know, so I don't know why you keep referring back to Naruto, because there are plenty of other sources to find what a real ninja looks like. But Naruto's done a great job at portraying the ninja culture quite well. It has a lot of truth in regards to Onmyodo, or the magic of the ninja, which was used by many people back then from different walks of life. Onmyodo was quite common. It's the Japanese term for witchcraft, and everybody was doing it. Naruto is great at that. I still enjoy it as a show, as a fantasy. I enjoy the backstories of the characters, the diagrams of all the key energy stuff, and the magic in it. Quite authentic in that regards, but not when it comes to clothing and uniform.
We can trace this black garb back to kabuki theater stagehands, and there's two leading theories on this. Either one, the stagehands wore all black to be invisible to the audience, or two, they would dress in all black to represent black-clad assassins in the same way we used to depict mustachio-twirling villains in the 1900s. A 19th century woodblock prints by Hokusai Kunisada shows black-clad figures, but these were illustrating people concealing identity generally, but not like shinobi specifically.
The black hood was really just a sort of general visual representation of the fact that someone was trying to conceal their identity. And yeah, I mean, you might want to do that if you were trying to kill someone or sneak into a house, but you also might want to do it if you were going to the brothel districts of a major city.
What? If you wear black and a hood in Edo, you'll be arrested on the spot. You can't dress up in black with a hood. You look like you've committed a crime. The authorities will not hesitate to arrest you immediately. What they did wear was, if they had coloured clothing, just normal kimono, they could have, say, a black hood on, right? Or usually it was coloured. But definitely not all in black with a black hood. It's either the black hood by itself with different coloured clothing, or it's a different coloured or colourful patterned hood. Okay, and this thing about the kabuki stage performers originating the idea for the famous ninja shinobi fuko, that's just not true. As I said, it was a common uniform, everyone wore it if they needed to blend in. It's just like you going to buy a pair of cams or camouflage. Anyone can buy military official clothing, even if you're not part of the military. The same way, anyone could buy the official shinobi fuko. So that is exactly what shinobi wore during their stealth missions. And it is what it is. This idea that they somehow made things up in the Edo period and fantasized things. Sure, fantasy happens, but they didn't draw or depict something that wasn't unusual. They drew what they saw. The Japanese portray what they see, okay? They don't just make something up out of the blue that looks entirely different, because if so, you would know about it, and such things are rare. They drew what they saw with their eyes back then. What you see in the Edo period, in the woodblock prints, that's what they look like. That's it. And here is a depiction of your everyday Samurai Shinobi. They were magical practitioners, often associated with Onmyoji, the practitioners of Onmyodo, Japanese witchcraft. What is it with you Gen Z and making the shinobi always look funny, cute, silly? Why don't you show some classical ninja or kunoichi in that classical black shinobi fuko, you know? Red linings on a lapel and a purple zukin hood with a fishnet, which did exist, by the way. That is what they wore under their uniforms. Depict that. It was the Japanese who actually invented the fishnet. All the black metal bands and heavy metal bands were copying the kabuki stage performers with their makeup and fishnet. It all came from Japan. It was popular at the time.
The first confirmed link we can trace to a ninjutsu practitioner wearing all black clothing is in 1909. A newspaper reporter by the name of Ito Gengetsu He wrote a manual on ninjutsu actually, and we'll come back to that later. So it turns out the ninja's most recognizable feature was invented and popularized.
What else are they going to wear? The kimono loose with no hakama? As soon as you put the hakama over the kimono, alright, and when you're doing stealth operations, you have to use the gaiters, the kyahan, shin gaiters, right? During their stealth missions. And it is what it is. You're already wearing tabi and waraji. All you do is you put your zuki hood on, and there you have it. Everybody could do this. Anyone could do this. That's what they did. When they mean dress in black or white to blend in, they mean shinobi fuku. Okay, to a Japanese this is very obvious. It just goes with the culture. They didn't have anything else. That's all they had. They didn't have any other clothes. The only one thing that's slightly different that they did have are just plain tight pants, like gi pants, right? They wore them sometimes under the kimono instead of wearing the hakama, but usually the hakama were worn over the kimono, over the obi. Okay, that's the only other option. Here is a traditional shinobi zuki dyed in red sappan wood as a disinfectant. Ask any traditional Japanese who wear the traditional uniforms. That's just the standard zukin cloth. Everybody's got one for winter. They wear it in the snow. It's just part of the culture. By everyone, I mean everyone back then in Edo. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
I mean, an effective assassin selects gear that blends with the operational environment. All black clothing does not blend with most operational environments. Think like daytime, crowds, interiors.
Yeah, duh. That's because they would have dressed up as a monk, a beggar, a politician perhaps, a different gender, a horticulturalist, a doctor, or a commoner. You blend in during the day. It's not a stealth operation where you go and break into a dwelling or you're going through the forest and all that, like that commando style stuff. That's when you wear the shinobi fuku. During the day, when you're walking around other people, you be other people. These are the 7 known particular shinobi disguises, okay? There were 7 main ones that are listed in the Toranomaki. And they even chose the correct scent, the kind of scent using incense that the particular character they were portraying would smell like. And it goes into this in the Toranomaki.
Scrolls. Kishimoto Masashi, the creator of Naruto, illustrated some beautiful cover spreads with sprawled out scrolls, and usually these scrolls contain hidden seals or jutsus, and some of them contain hidden techniques, which is where Naruto first learned his shadow clone jutsu in episode 1. So obviously, scrolls are not an invention. They were obviously a historic medium for like transferring knowledge before we had books. But did Kishimoto invent the association of scrolls and ninja lore? Well, it turns out there's some actual ninja documents. The Bansenshukai specifically is considered the ninja Bible. It was compiled in 1676 in the Iga province. In Naruto, there are 3 distinct disciplines: ninjutsu, the magic system; taijutsu, the hand-to-hand fighting system; and genjutsu, which are the illusions. We've gone through the weapons, the outfits, the scrolls, and the poison, but maybe the actual fighting system has some real historical basis? Let's talk about ninjutsu as a unified martial art. Turns out there's no evidence of such a martial art existing before about the 1960s. The word itself actually means something completely different at different points of time in Japan's history, ranging from military strategy, espionage, to even literal sorcery.
No, there wasn't any different interpretation of what ninjutsu was. Ninjutsu is ninjutsu, which was known as shinobu back then, or shinobi no jutsu, which was jitsu actually. They changed the word jitsu to jutsu, but that's another story. It is what it is. It's stealth, and it was able to be employed by anyone who wanted to use it. It's simple. And it was always associated with sorcery and magic. Onmyodo, witchcraft, has always been one with Japanese culture, samurai, shinobi, and even the common, everybody was doing it.
If ninjutsu is indeed a martial arts. It doesn't seem to have left much of a trace before about 1960 or so, right? And my hunch, based on that, it's probably a post-war invention.
Most modern ninjutsu schools trace to lineages that are academically contested.
Everything's contested. People contest everything. There's some things we just will never know, and there's some things we find out are made up. Okay, one thing you need to realize about every culture is the backstories are usually based on some truth with fantasy mixed in there. And this is no different in Japan with samurai and shinobi and anyone claiming the traditions. It's part of the culture to slightly mythologize things. It makes it more fascinating, and that's just the way it goes, okay? Everything's contested. Religion is contested. Every religion has been contested and so-called debunked. Doesn't always mean it is. Sometimes, and a lot of times actually, there's truth to it. But not always. Sometimes it's just straight out bullshit. People just don't like things, or they're jealous or whatever. That's it. Other times it's based in actual things we can find. And other times, you'll just never know.
In the ninjutsu or the ninja field, almost nobody can actually agree on when ninjutsu started. You'll find people saying it's like 4,000 years old and it originated in Tibet.
What? Where'd you get Tibet from? You mean Gorkha near Nepal, which used to be called the Kingdom of Gorkha? Maybe that's more believable, but Tibet didn't invent ninjutsu. They invented Bon, which is the pagan religion that Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhism came out of. If anything, the Tibetans invented not the bonfire itself, but the word bonfire that we use for bonfire. It comes out of Bon, which is what is used in Mikkyo Buddhism and Shugendo and Shinto. Yes, but ninjutsu or shinobu most likely, in my opinion, came from the Hashashi of the Hashashin of the ancient Middle East, which I speak about in my book, Obi-Ichi, Way of the Shadow Warrior. I go into more details about this, where mysticism, martial arts, and tactical warfare and stealth was used by the Hashashi. Okay? It's worth looking into the Hashashin, because it's most likely through the Silk Road trade that they came into Japan and started the whole thing. Because if you look at the outfits of the Hashashi, they're very similar to those worn by the shinobi, okay?
A lot of people think of it as this historical, once deadly martial art that gets mythologized in popular media, when in actuality, it's a myth that keeps getting turned into martial arts.
Okay, what you got to understand, this is where people are ignorant. Everybody was doing the same kind of taijutsu. It's the same taijutsu that Takamatsu Sensei brought to the world. Okay? It's the same taijutsu that my sensei Hiro Musashi brought to me. And I can tell you that they all move the same. Taijutsu is taijutsu, okay? It's very specific in Japan. A long time ago it used to just be the Chinese style, which is very similar to what the Yagyu Shingan Ryu school does, and you can see them today. It's just leopard style kung fu, okay? The Japanese tend to simplify things and make something unique to their own culture because they wanted something unique. So what we got out of that is the same taijutsu that is practiced in Takamatsu's schools. Takamatsu Sensei knew exactly what he was doing. We should have him to thank for it. Back then, taijutsu is taijutsu, okay? Ninjutsu is just the method which is used to apply stealth, espionage, commando tactics, and so on.
True haters of this channel are going to bring up the important distinction of shinobi versus ninja. And some of these haters may even acknowledge ninja as a reading to Ito Gengetsu's 1937 work, because apparently the word ninja didn't even appear in a Japanese English dictionary until 1974. The word we all use is essentially a 20th century coinage. But while the ninja was a ghost story, the shinobi was a real job description. It raises a question we haven't asked yet. Was shinobi a type of person or a type of thing a person did?
I don't think you can draw any particular conclusions from the word shinobi in terms of an individual's training, their social background, their philosophy, the weapons they might use. Really, I would actually argue that shinobi is better understood as a set of tactics, right? It's something you do rather than something you are.
If you strip away the Hollywood tropes and the black pajamas, there really isn't much ninja left. The whole thing is a collection of myths and half-truths. Honestly, the most stealthy thing about the ninja is how they managed to fake an entire legacy without anyone checking the facts.
Faked what? You mean their disguises? Because I don't know what the hell you're talking about. They wouldn't be much of a ninja if they didn't trick anyone into anything, would they now? Shinobi is a general term. Japanese changes as time goes on. Anything with I, like jitsu became jutsu. You know, the weapon jite became known as a jute. Ninjutsu became ninjutsu. In the Meiji period, words changed, and the word shinobi became ninja.
The ninja is a fictional construct that is loosely based on the historical shinobi.
Let's talk about the real historical shinobi, the job that the ninja are based on. In 1588, there was this lord named Rokaku Yoshikata who had been trying to take Sawayama Castle for days and just could not break through. So he hired a commander from Iga named Tateoka Doshan. He showed up with 48 men, 44 from Iga and 4 from Koka. They made paper lanterns with the enemy's own family crest on them. Then they dressed up as the castle's returning patrol guards and just walked right through the front gates without any resistance. Once they were inside, they set fire to everything and the siege was over. So we have written records of this actual covert shinobi operation. But what stands out to me, no throwing stars, no black pajamas, and sadly, no fireball jutsu. Spies and saboteurs, not assassins.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did commit assassinations.
Assassin's thing is one that I'm particularly interested in because that is almost complete fiction. From what we can tell from historical sources from the medieval period onwards, they seem to have been primarily spies or saboteurs. The assassination function doesn't seem to have really been a thing. And
think about back in feudal warring era Japan. And we still have, even today, we have good written record of who died and who lived from back then. But if you live in the time period yourself, it might help your cause a little if you spread rumors of having deadly assassins in your arsenal lying in wait.
What, are we jumping to conclusions now? You can't assume this.
Because the true information of who killed who and how it was done might not travel as well.
It's supposed to be a secret. Of course not.
In feudal Japan, verifying the cause of a specific death was difficult for most people. So a reputation for possessing assassins is strategically valuable even if the assassinations don't happen. Therefore, the incentive was to claim assassination capability, not to demonstrate it, which is why so many alleged ninja assassinations have no confirmed kills.
That's a loser thing to say.
We know about a lot of actual examples of shinobi tactics. They're often rank and file samurai, right? People we would think of as just general Japanese warriors. It's that many alleged ninja assassinations fail to kill the target. And I think that's because it's much easier to maintain the fiction if you don't actually have to prove that somebody died at a certain time.
Strong need for these covert operatives, but once all that war stops, they had no reason to continue these practices. Fast forward a little bit to the Edo period, which brings a period of peace. The Tokugawa shogunate stabilizes Japan, war ends, and peace brings in nostalgia, entertainment, and more importantly, art. Once again, we're going to look at the Kabuki theater. Kabuki theater gets a hold of ninjutsu and turns it into sorcery. Turns out Jiraiya the hero was a real-ish character. Kishimoto drew inspiration from another historical wizard. He was a sorcerer who shapeshifted and rode a toad. Sounds familiar?
I absolutely love Jiraiya, one of my favorites.
But I was wondering to myself, where did those hand seals come from in Naruto? Did Kishimoto completely pull that out his ass, or?
Just say ass, man. Stop bleeping it out. Just say ass and forget about the sensory. For goodness sakes. People like that are all about money. I'm about facts. The money side of YouTube is secondary.
Where was that association? To answer that, I spoke with Professor Fabio Rambelli. He's a scholar of Japanese religion at UC Santa Barbara who specializes in the esoteric Buddhist traditions that a lot of this ninja mythology is actually rooted in.
Not everybody was doing it. It's only for like a few highly initiated, highly trained ascetics who were able to do this type of things. The mudra.
That is an asinine claim. Everybody was practicing on Myodo and Mudra. Once again, this is people who are not immersed in the culture.
To the Bansenshukai. Remember the Iga family that created that ninja Bible I mentioned? So where did they get their information from? Because yeah, there were intelligence gathering techniques and espionage and just like general warfare strategies, but did the authors of the Bansenshukai invent those tactics? Well, as always, all roads lead to Sun Tzu. The espionage framework that informed Japanese military strategy came from China.
Others saying that it starts off with Sun Tzu's Art of War, others that it starts in Japan in the 7th century, others that it starts in the 11th century.
Sun Tzu's Art of War had 5 categories of spies, and turns out the shinobi concept maps onto 1 or maybe 2 of Sun Tzu's spy categories, more particularly the living agents. But I mean, honestly, most of Sun Tzu's Art of War nowadays is just like really common sense war advice. Act strong when you're weak, act weak when you're strong, don't attack someone who's already strong. And here's the thing, the authors of the Bansenshukai weren't just writing a manual. By 1789, the warriors of Iga and Koka representing this thing to the shogunate, basically saying, look, we have these ancient skills that make us superior wartime agents. You still need us. Look, it was a political survival move. They consolidated existing warfare techniques to keep their jobs.
Okay, this is another asinine claim. People act as though Sun Tzu is the be-all and end-all of all military tactics. There's a lot more where Shinobu came from than Sun Tzu. It most likely came from the Hashashin, as I mentioned before. And Sun Tzu was also adopted because it was a pretty good book. But it's not the be-all and end-all. While it's very good, much of what we know as Shinobu is homegrown in Japan.
The shogunate to preserve their relevance. And obviously, a document created to preserve political relevance has incentive to inflate the importance of its subject. The Bansenshukai is not a neutral historical record. It's an argument for their author's continued employment.
Okay, it's alright. The Bansenshukai is a historical piece that every ninja fan or practitioner must have, but it's not the be-all and end-all, nor is it the Ninja Bible. You'll get more out of my book series, Obi-Ichi Enso, Shindo, and Obi-Ichi Way of the Shadow Warrior, and the Oborotsuki Onosho, Book of the Hazy Moon Night by Hiro Musashi, than you'll ever get from the Bansenshukai. But it is necessary to get all the
ninja post-World War II. So there was clearly this vacuum post-war where Japan really wanted to redefine themselves and kind of justify their whole existence. And the ninja served that purpose. It kind of stemmed from this entire inferiority complex.
Excuse me? Who are you calling inferior? Japan is one of the greatest nations ever besides Rome and Etruria and Greece and Egypt. We are the imperial race. What have we got to be insecure about? It's the complete opposite. We're proud. That's why we're willing to die for our cause.
The ninja kind of helped fill their insecurities.
So there's kind of an attractive idea that the ninja were scientists like 300 years before anyone ever actually used the word science, right?
So we need to talk about Okusei Heiichiro, a man from the Iga province. He read the Bansenshukai and he kind of saw an opportunity. In 1951, after reading the Shukai, he created the Ninjutsu Wonder Museum with Fujita Seiko. And in 1956, he published a 26-page booklet on ninjutsu, contained the first photographs of someone in an all-black ninja outfit. He depicted custom-made weapons, ninja sights, and even a theme park brochure for a theme park that was yet to exist. He even erected monuments to local shinobi heroes around Iga and notice boards at castles. And he created a hierarchical ranking system. Even though none of this was historically accurate, it's now become very widely adopted. He was even consulted on the very influential 1962 film Shinobi no Mono, a massive hit that spanned 7 sequels in 4 years.
Okay, if you haven't seen Shintaro, the Samurai series, you gotta watch that if you want to see real ninja stuff and how they actually dressed.
Because we are a secret society, born to be a ninja, dying a ninja. Now with the secret goal, I can change this peaceful time and govern the world under the rules of ninja. No ninja could ever do this before. But now, the time has come for the greatest master ninja of all.
And also watch Lone Wolf and Cub if you want to see more real ninja stuff and the way it actually was. Before the 1960s in Japan, what a ninja actually was known to be was an onmyoji, okay? A practitioner of Japanese onmyodo witchcraft. That's what a ninja was associated with.
Very martial-minded and physical, whereas the Edo period ninja were more sorcery and wizardry, but that all got dropped and lost in translation.
A lot of people really are exposed to Japanese culture and Japanese religion in particular through anime, manga, and video games, not through books or any other thing. So it is really an important medium, I think, to convey certain cultural values.
And this is where I come in. I specialize in this particular area, and my books are full of this wisdom, in particular the tradition of my sensei of the Oborozuki clan, Tsukikage Hiromuzashi.
What's funny about all this, though, is once all of this cultural export in the West rebounded back to Japan, the myth kind of started to circle in on itself, and Japan started to propagate some of these own mythical bastardizations of their myths, and Japan's own perception shift.
Yes, there is some truth to this, and unfortunately,
once again, the top association for ninja. You better believe it. So where are we now? Well, I want to bring it back to those guys who are wearing sandals and fishnets.
yes, they absolutely wore fishnets. The word for the undergarment was called a kusari, and it was also worn by all Bushi warriors, and on Myoji in Edo. It was like the in thing.
Wearing head-to-toe black in the forest of Japan. Turns out there's like national shuriken throwing competitions, which, if you're asking me personally, is really cool. Like, when I was younger, I thought ninja were cool. Today, I think ninja are cool. After researching this video, I still think what we think of when we think of ninja as still cool, even though I know the truth. So the question is not whether ninja exists today. The question is, are you going to tell them they're not?
Thank you. I am Shigana Sensei, also known as Frankie Traino.